We're truly honored to be considered one of the honorees for Michigan Economic Bright Spots Award by Corp magazine. I think it's great. You know, we've worked hard to to build our company. We've got a great team, and to be recognized for that on a state level is just really exciting and rewarding for us.
What I want to share with you a little bit today about what we see as the top business leaders in Michigan for where we are, where we've been, and where we think we need to go in the future, and hopefully give you a sense of how you can play a role in helping shape what the new Michigan looks like. So, this is the most depressing slide of the day. Get this out of the way early. In the last decade, from 2000 to 2010, Michigan lost 1 million jobs. America lost 2 million jobs. We lost 1 out of every 2 jobs lost in America during that time. Okay, that's how bad things were in the last decade. And only 20% of the jobs lost in Michigan were auto jobs. Okay, 80% of the jobs lost in Michigan were not auto-related jobs. Think about that for a second. That tells you 2 things. One is we weren't very competitive as a state, and our businesses weren't very competitive when global competition just really escalated. The good news is we are absolutely in an economic recovery right now. In fact, you could argue that we are one of the top 2 or 3 states in the country coming out of this economic recession. Now, the cynics will say, well, it's because you dug yourself such a deep hole, for goodness sake. You know, you messed with the data. But the data says, you know, we'll take it for what it is. It says that we are coming out of this, you know, faster than just about everybody else. But in the last year and a half, since the trough of the recession, we've created about 150,000 jobs. Remember, I said we lost 1 million in the last decade. So lest we feel really good, we're 850,000 jobs down from our peak, which means that we certainly should not feel complacent and feel like we've solved the problem for our state. We look at Michigan like we would any community and like a business would, that the way to really fix the problem is to think about the value you offer for the cost that you charge. So what that means is that just like a business, those places that offer more value for money are going to win in the marketplace, generally speaking. And we think the same is true for Michigan, which means that there is no one factor, there's no silver bullet that is going to fix Michigan. It's not just about trying to cut costs, it's not just trying to increase our talent levels, it's everything. It's all of the above that's going to move Michigan forward. So when we look at the benchmarking data and we summarize kind of what are the most positive and negative attributes of Michigan compared to other places, we start with the positives, which is that the level of talent that is coming out of our universities and colleges, both in terms of quality and quantity, is excellent. Okay? We have a terrific pipeline of talent coming out of our universities. The talent level of our existing workforce, the technical talent level of our existing workforce, is also very strong. In terms of the number of people we have with engineering degrees, with science and math degrees, as well as people that have a technical level of skill that's good for the manufacturing environment. Top 10 state for the amount of research and development that's going on both in our universities and in our businesses. Okay, top 10 state in both categories. Our geographic location is not normally a positive when you're a peninsula state, but we think that it actually is, which we'll explain in just a second. On the negative side, Michigan is still about 3 to 4% more expensive to do business in than the average U.S. state. And that's interesting because you would think that after all the labor agreement restructurings and the real estate values that have depreciated in this community, that we would certainly be average, if not even maybe below average at this point, but we're not. And I think what that statistic tells you is that the rest of the world continues to change as we do as well. So yes, we used to be even more expensive than other places, and we've come down, relatively speaking, but we're still above average, and that 3 to 4% margin can be the difference in terms of profit for many, many companies in terms of making a living. The second is the regulatory climate here is more complex than other places for a couple of reasons. One is that we have some standards that the state has for particularly environmental regulation that are stricter than the federal government. We also have 3,000 units of local government, which is more than most states, which means if you're a business and you're trying to do business throughout Michigan, you've got 3,000 sets of rules rather than maybe just 100 or a couple hundred to deal with. And plus, we've got a regulatory culture here, and it comes really from this kind of issue I'll talk about in a minute about a lack of cohesiveness in Michigan, which is we tend to look at solutions of we, us, rather than, we, they versus us in terms of a solution. We tend to look at things in a confrontational way, and that spills over to the way our regulation is administered by the regulators. The attainment level of education of our existing workforce, I mentioned before, good on the technical side, but the overall level of education attainment is actually below the national average in terms of the number of people with college degrees. Our roads are not in great shape, although I tell you, we tend to beat up on them a little bit more than they deserve. Most states right now do not have terrific roads. The infrastructure of the country is not in great shape. Ours is a little worse than average, but it's not like bottom 10. It's not the worst 10 states in the country. And this issue is really important because most of our urban centers in Michigan are not either seen as being vibrant or in fact they're not vibrant. And that affects the ability for us to retain and attract particularly younger people. So, top 10 states, that's our goal. What are the characteristics of these top 10 states? Well, first of all, they are distinctive. And what I mean by that is that they are very good at identifying what makes them special and leveraging those special characteristics to drive the economy. Okay, and I'm going to come back to this in 1 second. Second is they embrace the new. What I mean by that is they embrace entrepreneurship. They don't fight trends or changes in the economy. They embrace how the economy is evolving. They embrace innovation. They are cohesive. I mentioned that a minute ago. All places have differences. Political, social, regional. What we tend to do in Michigan is we tend to let those differences become very public. But other states, top 10 states, tend to be able to either resolve those issues behind the scenes or at least repress them when it comes time to retaining and attracting jobs. We tend to fight with each other in public about everything. Okay, and that's, Grand Rapids, I always use as the example over here. Grand Rapids, you wouldn't know, they have a 50% high school dropout rate. City of Grand Rapids. City of Detroit's high school dropout rate is about 67%. Not that big of a difference. But in Detroit, we fight about it, everybody knows about it, it becomes a big public spectacle. In Grand Rapids, everything's fine. What do you mean, there's no problem? We're good. Okay? So that's the issue, is that we're not very cohesive and we can learn from that experience a little bit. And the last one is they're competitive. They're not the cheapest places to do business, but they're competitive. And I guess the one thing I want to come back to, the other thing is the top 10 states that do this work do it on a continuous basis. They focused on these attributes year after year after year, decade after decade, beyond political cycles. They do not have their economy so overly affected by the election of one individual or one legislature. Okay, it's the business community, it's community leaders that ensure that these values are ingrained so that no matter who's in office, they embrace these characteristics and move their state forward. And we put together a short video that I think does a pretty good job of trying to describe for you how we look at these things, and then I'll explain a little bit more right after we are through.
Michigan has a long history of innovation. After all, it was my great-grandfather Henry Ford and other automotive pioneers from the state of Michigan that put the world on wheels more than a century ago. As Michigan's turnaround gets underway, you can begin to see how we can grow a new Michigan. If we focus our efforts by building on our centers of excellence, our state is well poised to lead in the 21st century.
Where are the best ideas going to come from? Well, I'll tell you what's certain is that the places that have the most engineering talent, you can bet that they're going to be in the running to be the most competitive places in the world. I often return here to Michigan to work on the most difficult problems because engineering in this part of the world is the best.
Michigan can really take advantage of what we have in terms of location, in terms of underutilized infrastructure, and in terms of the knowledge and skill of our people here in Michigan to be the next global logistics hub.
If you think about mobility in its broadest terms, it's not just mass transit, it's not just cars and trucks. It's everything that moves people around. We now have this new challenge, the notion of solving global gridlock. And that challenge, I believe, will be solved here in Michigan first.
Lifestyle that we have here in Michigan is unique, and our abundant resources drive a lot of that and make it a very special place to be and live and work.
There are a lot of champions of the life science economy in Michigan. We've got a robust history and heritage of involvement in the life sciences for a lot of great reasons. And Michigan's background, not only with its universities, not only with its medical centers, not only with its well-established physicians, but also its huge, vast array of support services into the pharmaceutical and medical device industry, is poised to be part of that new future at prices that everybody can afford.
Higher education really does have an enormous economic impact on the state of Michigan. And in these ways, we are really helping to drive an economy that we find ourselves competing in today. As the president of the University of Michigan, when I say Michigan, I'm not just talking about the university. I'm talking about our great state.
There are so many possibilities that lie ahead for Michigan's future. What's so exciting is that these opportunities are not something we have to dream about. They're all here and starting to happen today. We need focus, investment, and teamwork to accelerate these opportunities. Now, you may be wondering where you fit into this. At every level, we can all be part of shaping the new Michigan. Please share this vision of our state with others to get them thinking about the possibilities. Help your friends and family understand the potential that Michigan has if we align behind some common goals. Every one of us can encourage our leaders to make decisions that will position our state for long-term prosperity and job growth. Michigan has a long tradition of being a great example of American ingenuity. We created a way of life by inventing and making things that improve people's lives. We've done it before, and we can do it again. The vision for the new Michigan: share it, talk it up, drive it home.
I've been living in Michigan for the last 20 years. This is the place that created me, and I owe it to Michigan for what I am. And so therefore, and especially in the last couple of years, it's been booming, and I see a lot of vibrant activity in Michigan, much like what you see in Silicon Valley. So I feel excited and enthused to be part of this great state.
We were founded in Michigan. We're headquartered here in Troy. We were in Detroit for quite a long time. We are very active with the economy, supporting small businesses in Michigan, hiring Michigan talent. We're very keen on developing and hiring the talent locally and have been a really strong supporter of small businesses, minority-owned businesses. So we're really excited to see Michigan come back.
You know, when it came to launching our image into the world, WE was really the only choice for me and my company. Whether we were in need of a website, hosting service, commercial, or a music video, it didn't matter. WE literally does it all. They even produce television shows. And best of all, they provide these exceptional services at unbelievable rates. And because they're skilled at so many things, there was really no need to go anywhere else.
Get a website with hosting service for just $14.95 a month. Register a new domain for just $1.99 a year. Get 500 full-color business cards for just $29.99 or 1,000 full-color letterhead for just $149. Call now or log on to we-productions.com.